how Carnival was accepted. By metal people, the first album we did, Carnivore, how brilliant the title was, right? It was slow and dirgy. It was like somebody with osteoporosis, arthritis, hardening of the arteries, chronic constipation. That's somebody who would listen to the first Carnival album. However, the second album, Retaliation, was extremely influenced by my discovery of hardcore music and CBGBs around that area in like 85, 86, which instantaneously I was attracted to. So what I strided to do was to create an album that was like half Black Sabbath, the other half Agnostic Front, Cro-Mags, Murphy's Law, Sheer Terror, Black Flag, stuff like that. Because I loved the heaviness, the slowness, the dirge of Sabbath. But at the same time, going to CBGB's on Sundays I should say, for the matinee, there was so much unbelievable energy in there. And it didn't even matter if the bands were not in tune. I mean, every band that I've been in has never been in tune. What's it, your mother?
Death metal is quick double bass or very, very slow double bass, brutal or extreme.
Death metal has been around in one form or another since, I would say, the late 80s. It was an outgrowth of thrash, where it got faster, and there's a distinction where the vocals all of a sudden got very, guttural. You're going back to stuff like Jeff Becerra from Possessed, Chris Reeford, Chuck Schuldiner was probably definitely one of the first ones to take on these guttural vocals that drew the line from thrash to death metal. There's old death metal and there's new death metal. Old death metal is stuff like Autopsy, Grave, Entombed, shit like that. Didn't have a lot of blast beats or anything, and it's very thick and soupy. 90s death metal, when you have bands like Dying Fetus, all of a sudden they got very, very, very fast, and the vocals, in my opinion, almost got a little too guttural, where it sounded more like a burp or something, which brings on the expression, this band has burpy vocals as opposed to guttural vocals or something. What death metal encompasses to me has to have a consistent level of brutality, whether it's fast or slow. You need a lot of double kick drums, a lot of fast, doodly lit riffs, going all over the place on the guitar. The bass can be clean or dirty, depending on what the bass player wants to do. Lyrically, death metal should be centered around death, the grave. It could be blasphemous, it doesn't have to be. Black metal takes care of that. But whether it's 80s death metal or 90s death metal, it has to be something that's ugly, that your average person would say, the music's okay, but when the vocals come in, I just don't get it. That makes it something that sets it apart from its precursor, thrash metal.
Death metal to me is the most extreme period of all metal that's played. I mean, it's the most technical to play. It's really difficult to play. It's almost like the metal equivalent of jazz.
Obviously, everyone's got their own version of it, but it's extreme, and that doesn't mean it's not a viable kind of music. I mean, the drumming, the guitaring, all aspects of this music are pretty much very involved, and if you go out to see any of these bands play this kind of music, you'll see there's a lot that goes into it. Different time signatures. I mean, I could speak for us, we do all sorts of different time signatures, different chords on the guitars, very non-standard stuff, things that just are just out in left field sometimes, but that's what this music is. To us, that's what it's about. And it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of rehearsing, a lot of practice, a lot of time to be able to pull that off live and in the studio, So it's definitely viable, just like any other kind of music.
Sure.
Just because it's not a soft kind of music or an accessible kind of music directly, it's definitely, it takes a lot of talent and effort, to pull it off, and that goes for, all the bands in the scene.
Death metal guitar playing today is completely different. You have bands like Cephalic Carnage, Lethargy, Human Remains. These bands use riffs that were written in maybe the 70s. Montevishna Orchestra, John McLaughlin, King Crimson. Yes, Rush. These are where I would pull influences from. You know, I wouldn't pull it exactly from Venom and Celtic Frost. That gave us the distortion, the power. But the actual riffing and musical structure that makes death metal sick today comes from every other music that was written that was technical and progressive.
A lot of musicians, like anal type Yngwie Malmsteen people, will say death metal is talentless crap. You know, how can you prove that this music has any fucking validity at all? It isn't just bashing a bunch of noise. This reminds me of the old days when there was glam metal versus thrash metal, and the glam people would say to people like us, let's say, that's just a bunch of fast noise. You know what we'd say to them? We'd say, okay, we'll play one of your songs, you play one of our songs. Let's see if you can do it. Let's see if your drummer has the stamina and talent to do that. So, what makes death metal viable? The fact that these musicians can perform at this intense speed and still be really tight and not be a big fucking wall of noise. Okay, now I played in Brutal Truth for 8 fucking years. We were extremely fast. We were beyond death metal. We were grindcore. And sometimes we got reviews of some of our records where people said, this is a pile of shit. I don't get what it is. Now that's because the human ego, if it does not understand something, it condemns it. It takes a lot of balls to say, even though I don't understand this, I'm sure it's musically valid. Other people seem to like it. You know, a lot of people, they'll just instantly, because of their ego, say, I don't get what's going on here, therefore there is nothing going on.
Be a drummer alone and play this type of music. I mean, you know, the amount of skill and dexterity and stamina you need alone just to play this is like mind-blowing. I mean, it's like you have a guy with like 8 arms and like 4 feet playing. I mean, you're all over the place.
You know.
Non-stop. I mean, you know, whether you think it's garbage or not, I mean, you really have to give everybody credit.
Yeah, today's drummers in death metal and grindcore are pushing the extreme limits, I think, of extreme drumming, and is the field, I think, for some of the greatest talent, I mean, as far as endurance and stamina, and just amazing guys that are out there doing some things that previously were only done by drum machines, and it's cool to see people from all over the world really pushing those limits of extreme drumming.
So, what makes death metal viable? Why would a guitar player want to play death metal? Because you build up some serious fucking stamina for one thing, doing all that shredding with the right hand. There are a lot of talented lead guitarists in the genre, and I might add that very fast lead guitar works very well over blast beats because you have a completely intense atmosphere. Everybody's flying, right? And to people who would be snobby about it and think it's talentless crap, that's either your personal taste or you're just a dick.
Not anybody can just do this. A lot of times, you know, people look at what we do and what you play, and they look at it and say, yeah, you know, it's just noise and it's garbage, whatever. But if you listen to it and you truly listen to it and pick out the pieces of it, it's some of the most technical stuff that you will ever hear on the planet. And you know, as far as just being able to try and do it, you know, it takes a lot. It's just not something that just comes natural.
I think death metal has a lot to offer to the audience, especially in the form of an outlet for aggressions and everything that all of us carry inside. I mean,
We started out, it was 88, and back then it was all tape trading, cassette tapes, demos sent out. Basically, you would just send your demo out to different fanzines and magazines, and you know, word would get out that way. It's just a matter of everybody trading tapes, tape trading, and word of mouth. And that's really what got assigned to our first label, Roadrunner.
How Carnival got signed. I had a friend, Richard Termini, who bumped into somebody at CBGB's and mentioned to her, she's a manager of some sort, about this really horrible band, like these 3 fucking long-haired, fat, pimple-faced dickheads from Brooklyn. But see, I was much better than the other 2 guys because I have pimples on my ass too, but they don't. So that makes me superior. However, To make a long story short, we signed a contract with, I believe it's called Road Racer, back in 84, 85, I'm not sure. And so since that time, I have been signed to this label, and now it's 2003, so I've been on this label 19 years, sentenced 19 years, which is a lot longer than mass murderers have to be in fucking jail for.
We really didn't have any aspirations of getting signed either. I mean, when we first started doing it, our main goal was to play like the local club, which was a club called Streets. And for me, when I first started with Immolation, it was originally going to be Rigor Mortis, and then we decided to change the name because we were going in a different direction musically. And for me, like, it was just a high just to play out in front of people, you know. And that was just our immediate goal, was just to record our stuff that we had spent time writing and release it, you know, and just get it out there so people could hear it, you know. Mainly our friends. I mean, right at the very beginning, we didn't really understand how, you know, even we had no concept of how big, like, the underground tape trading scene was until we just kind of happened to fall into it.
So we got our first letter
Right.
from Poland.
Yeah, in Poland and France. I mean, we had people got a hold of our tapes through tape traders, and, you know, boom, we started getting mail from all over the world, and it kind of blew us away because, I mean, you know, here we were just, you know, just four dorks in Yonkers, just creating just some extreme unholy music, and it was the type of stuff that touched people all over the world, and there were people like us all over the world, which was kind of cool. I mean, because let's face it, back then there was not too many bands doing this type of thing, and to get a reaction like that was kind of overwhelming for us. So
There's no such thing as a bad record contract if you sign it. If you sign the contract, it just means that you did not hire the correct lawyer to tell you that, you know, well, they want you to wear crotchless underwear during the whole fucking tour, and it has to be worn for a week by the guy who owns the record label. I'm like, alright, man, alright, but can I spray it like with some kind of like deodorant or something? They're like, no. So later on I will show you my underwear.
Roadrunner actually wrote to us, and they said that they had heard our stuff and they wanted to maybe, you know, work with us. And we blew it off because we were like, you know, that label's like, you know, not about what we're doing. And, you know, we didn't even take it seriously. That's where we were at back then. And we never answered them. And then, like...
Earache, too.
Earache
had a letter, too. You know, same kind of thing, talking about working with us. And we just weren't ready, and we really didn't even think much of it. You know, we're just like, yeah, well, you know, maybe someday.
Yeah,
we just
you know,
totally just didn't take it seriously, so...
We really didn't. I mean, we took what we did seriously, but we didn't want to take it to that level. We were just having fun, and we were writing and part of something that we could express ourselves in a certain way. And once we got that second letter from Roadrunner, they were just like, they said something to the effect of, hey, this is not how you go about getting signed. You know, we really like the demo, and we want to work with you guys. So we were just like, you know, maybe these guys are serious. Maybe there is something more to this than just, you know, just a bunch of jackasses in a rehearsal space, you know, playing a local club. So, and
as I was just saying, there is no such thing as a good or bad record company. There are many, many young bands who will virtually sign their lives away to live their dream. I mean, my dream was to become a sanitation worker, which I was. However, I did these sanitation jobs within the New York City Department of Parks. And you know how, I mean, I felt like such a man when I was driving a big fucking truck. Like, people were terrified of me. And it was like, man, if I could get my dick hard, it's like euphoric. It was like an extension of my uterus. I mean, penis.
We thought being signed meant one thing. We thought once you were signed and that was it. I mean, you were signed and, you know, everything happened.
Yeah, back then it
magically.
was a different situation. To have an album at the store back then and be signed to a record label, almost in a sense meant you kind of made it in a way. You got to that next level, you know. It's like, you know, not everybody gets to do that. And then, I don't know, like a year later, it was just like, basically, there were like a million record labels, a million bands, and everybody was out there, you know, putting out CDs, and everything changed at that point. So it was almost like, we thought we got to the next level, and then everything else, you know, basically.
The next level just meant we were at another level. We had to work even harder than we did prior to that. So you know, we were just like, oh, fuck. You know? But
when I signed with Carnivore to the label, the deal was, in fact, horrible. As a matter of fact, it was a conflict of interest because I was young and ignorant and uncircumcised at the time. The record company recommended that we use their lawyer, which we did. So he's like, everything in here is cool. Of course it was cool. So my attitude was, well, I really don't want to be some fucking rock and roller because that was never my ambition in life. Like, it was a sanitation worker. So whether I fucking pick up garbage or write it, it's the same thing, ultimately. Anyway, after signing this contract, it's like, was it 1684 the year was? Oh no, 1984. After Carnival broke up, which is like 86, 87, the other two guys, Louis and Mark, were released from the contract. And I was withheld. I like that term, withheld. I like the word baba ganoush too. But withheld really makes me like, feel like my balls are soaked in ice water.
if you strive to get to that next level, to be a touring band and to get out there and maybe possibly tour in Europe and maybe support, you know, a larger act, you definitely need to have your CD out there, because it's so hard to do things on your own. I mean, unfortunately, you need the label support to do certain things, and you know, I mean, if you're fortunate enough to be in a situation where you have money and a car alarm that works,
Yeah.
maybe you could bypass the whole label thing. But we're not at that level yet, so
A
you know.
sad excuse for a car alarm.
You know, I didn't even form Typo Negative, and it's extremely ironic that a guy, Sal, Typo's first drummer, took lessons off of Louis in Carnivore. And Sal came over my house, and I remember this distinctly because I just cut off all my fucking hair because I was going for a job to be a New York City police officer. And then I realized, man, I have to lock up my whole fucking family and my friends. So Sal came over, he's like, you know, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm hanging out in bed in my underwear, eating fucking pretzels and watching Seinfeld. What the fuck are you doing? He's like, you want to form a band? I'm like, hey, what's in it for me? He goes, fame and misfortune. And right he was.
Now you have tools such as the internet and the ability to freely create MP3s, digital versions of your music that you can get online and promote for virtually no budget, that any band anywhere in the world can get exposure, basically, which is what a record label its function basically is to get your name out and get you in the public's face. And now you can do that yourself.
Type O was actually signed before it was even formed, because the other two guys, Mark and Louis from Carnivore, were released from the contract, but I was not. And so I was bound to it, and after getting these other three fucking hippies together and, you know, collaborating, it's like, you know, washing your fucking laundry in a toilet. That's how we sound. Put out a demo and shop it to other record companies. Radio Shack, we shopped it to. What else? Wallbounds. Sony. Why not do it us? Who else we got? Saddam Hussein. We didn't have mustaches. He fucking didn't even want to look at the press kit.
And as far as manufacturing, also, bands nowadays can cheaply also, cost-effectively manufacture their own discs and distribute them themselves, completely bypassing the label, and at least for their first release, pocket some money to get for startup money for the band, and have put more power in the individual musicians' hands over their publishing rights on first release, which is always something nice that I think a band wishes they had in their pocket when they go on to big labels and suddenly realize, you know, they've lost all control of everything, and if they had maintained maybe some of their first stuff, earlier stuff, they might be a little happier than they are.
I know Josh and Kenny for a long time, so we get together, blah, blah, blah. And so we do a demo tape over Josh's house, which is right down the block, and shop it to other labels. And Roadrunner gets word of this and lets all these other labels know that the fucking condemned have been signed, and that they should cease and desist and resist and exist, whatever the fuck. So all these we were supposed to get like $1,800 for the next album, something, and they blew it for us.
With my own band, Mortician, we've reached a point where we are finishing out our contract with our label and moving on to do things ourselves, and which I'm looking forward to. Back to what I was talking about earlier, putting more of the control back into our hands and not having to live by anybody else's schedule or anything. And I think tools that are out there, like I said before, the internet and more pressing plants willing to work with smaller run people and individual bands, and just the industry contacts in general becoming more available to bands that you could do it yourself. And you really, if you put your mind to it and work on it, and then the only person you have to blame too when you screw up is yourself. So as hard as you work is as hard as you can succeed in this.
It's possible to make a living out of it. We just haven't got to that point yet. I mean, there are bands that do it now. There's a handful of them, but they're, it's not an easy thing. Yeah, they're very few and far between. But it's obviously something we strive for and a goal of ours.
It's not our motivation, though.
Yeah.
I mean, don't mistake what we're saying. I mean,
we've been obviously anybody that starts a band. I'd say about 98% of people that start a band, they want to make a living out of it. Who's kidding who? I mean, that's obviously everyone's dream that is in a band, is to actually just do the band and actually be able to make a living from it. Fine, but I mean, we've been doing it for 15 years now, and we haven't been able to get to that point yet. But it hasn't stopped us. We still
it's
love
funny,
the music.
it has a reverse effect on us. I mean, every time we go on the road, we kind of lose, a few thousand here, a few thousand there.
The more money we lose, the more
debt we've incurred over the years is just, phenomenal. But we still do it because, I think without it, there'd be this huge void in our lives. And
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much something we've done for years, and we just love doing enough where it's just, we want to keep it going for as long as we can,
When you're in an underground band, you're hungry. You're hungry to get your sound out, and that's it. You're not hungry to make money. You make shirts just so you can fucking buy more shirts. You make shirts, you sell the shirts, you make more. You fucking make more. That's it. That's the way it goes.
Why keep playing extreme music when it's obviously isn't going to get you rich and could be very much of a pain in the ass? Because people play music for different reasons. I play music because it's in my blood. I don't want to get lofty or artistic on anybody's ass, but extreme music is just extremely natural to me. I couldn't play anything else with any kind of heart. I mean, you see all the trends come and go. It would have been very easy 3 years ago for me to get a bunch of teenage kids together and play fucking rap metal and make fucking tons of money, but you know what? First of all, nobody would believe I was doing that seriously. And number two, it would be unnatural and I'd feel like a sellout.
you talk to young kids though, and they think, oh, you guys got 5 records on,
Yeah, they think
you must
you're
be
a
doing
millionaire.
good. You must have, really comfortable lifestyle. It's like negative. That's not the case at all. I mean, especially living in New York. I mean, everything is so much more expensive, as everyone knows. Why we still live in New York is beyond me, but we love it. I mean, we're New Yorkers, so
people out there who are doing shit like this to make money are wasting their time. If you want to do something like that, you might as well just play something that's popular. If you're playing death metal, you should do it because you love it, or just get the fuck out.
We get around, we manage, but unfortunately we all need, jobs on the side when we get home. We need to pay the rent like anybody else, of course. fortunately for us, we all have bosses at our jobs that allows us to take time off to do tours and festivals and whatever is going on, you know. I'm not sure if we would have been where we are today if we wouldn't have had that opportunity to go on tour and everything. But it's not like we make a bunch of money from touring or anything. It's just something that we do because we love it, you know, and for you know, to have some fun and to meet some fans and stuff like that. Okay. So it's not that, like we come off a tour feeling rich or anything.
You know, we still have full-time jobs. We still have to kill ourselves. We still lose money every time we go on the road. Even though we're able to cover our asses now, we're finally at the point where we could actually cover our expenses while we're away. But it's just like, you know, we get back, we gotta jump right back into the full-time job situation, you know? So kids have this illusion that, you know, there's a lot of money to be made here, and, you know, you're living off the band, and it's just like, no, it's just like that very small percentage of bands that are able to do that, you know? And it's just like, you know, I told like younger kids who were like, yeah, you know, we're looking to do something, what's your advice? And I'm just like, well, you know, definitely don't do it for money, because that is not going to happen anytime soon.
Now, you can make a living, but it depends where you live, in the U.S. or in Europe. In New York, no, because we pay $1,000 a month for a one-bedroom apartment, where, you know, everybody else in fucking New Orleans and South Carolina pay $300 a month for a fucking house, and the whole band lives in there, and they get paid the same guarantee on tour as the New York bands. But since we got this high-ass rent, like fucking L.A. and bullshit, we're the ones that are poor and can't make a living.
I think first off, that bands, you know, shouldn't be in the scene for money purely. I mean, there's way more lucrative music they can get into if that's all they're interested in. I mean, if your heart's in death metal and your heart's in grindcore and then, you know, the heavier and darker musics, then money shouldn't matter. You should just do what you want to do, and hopefully you'll make a living off it. If you're smart, you'll make a living off it, because there's most likely someone who's going to dig it, you know, which is what it comes down to, people being interested in your music and wanting to purchase it and support it and all that, and go to your shows and that kind of thing, if that's even what you're into. You don't even, you know, I don't think anything like that, I don't think any accounting or marketing decisions should ever affect any individual's opinion or agenda, rather, of what they want to do musically. I think what they do musically should be what they want it to be, and then if they're smart, they can make money off it. And by all means, like I said previously, that, you know, a band can do it all themselves if they want to make money off it too, and money's important to them. They don't have to settle for just you know, whatever deal gets thrown at them. They can make the effort and do it themselves, and kind of they could make a good living for themselves. But it will come down to distribution eventually, and having to get your CD in front of the most people, where if you don't bust your ass, then a label might be better for you. But like I said, it all depends on the individual's willingness and willpower to do what they set out to do.
I think in this market today, you can really make a living off of it, especially with the advancements in technology, and also the fact that now they're putting heavy videos out, playing them all over the place, that alone is going to boost it and hopefully bring it out into the mainstream of what we do, not changing it, bring it out to the mainstream. And I think you can make a good living off it if you do it right. And it's not necessarily totally about that. I mean, you know, of course, we love doing it, and I would like this to be my living so I can just continue to do it more and more and not have to worry about the everyday, you know, job and everyday life.
It's hard, you know, it's not an easy thing. Not everybody could do it, and it gets tougher as you go, but that's the challenge of it, you know. It's just, if it wasn't hard and it wasn't tough, we probably wouldn't be doing it, you know. It's like the tougher it gets, like we said before, the more ambitious we get.
I have no problem with downloading music because I like to get the cover. I always buy the CD if I like it. I think the real fans in death metal, the people that love it, everything about it, lyrics, thanks lists, and they want the CD, but what bands have to do is put extra shit on the CDs. They gotta get CDR with some video in there or a bonus track, something that they can't get, that they can't burn, something that, you know, they can't copy, so they makes the other people, the assholes that would just burn it, buy the CD for the hell of it, you know.
I think if you compare it to, for instance, take Britney Spears or whatever, Backstreet Boys, and if somebody told me, you know, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, we're going to play this this artist 20 times every hour on every radio channel, and people are going to buy more albums, I'd say no, they're going to hate the song because they could hear it for free on the radio all the fucking time, but it's the other way around. The more you play it on radio, the more it sells, and I mean that kind of proves a point that MP3, whatever, downloading music is just another way of promoting your music. I don't see it at all as a threat.
Someone who's possibly not really truly indie is not going to get the release, and they'll just look and hunt down the songs they want, download them, and just keep them on their desktop or burn a CDR or whatever of it. But I mean, me personally, I'm not concerned with that. I think if somebody wants to support a band, they're going to go out and buy the disc. I don't have a heart attack when people, download my music or even get a bootleg or whatever, anything like that. I mean, that's cool. The person wants the music. God knows I have plenty of bootlegs that I have and watch and love, and I collected them over years always, and I don't really see... I see a lot of people's points of view, but I just don't share their point of view. I really don't care. I never made music just to make money. I always made music just to make music. So on a personal level, I mean, for Mortician, we dish out almost between 16,000 and 20,000 MP3s every month are downloaded off our website, and we still maintain pretty good record sales, and it's we dish out about 6 songs for every full length, 3 songs for every mini, and I don't think anybody could complain. That's a lot of songs to give off an album to check out, and if somebody really digs it, they'll go ahead and they'll buy the album. They'll support you to get the shirt or whatever. They'll be a fan or whatever, which is the point, to get people into it and get the music out there, which is what it should be all about. I don't think people should be crying about rights to music online, and I mean, it's the same thing as radio. If you play it on the radio, you could tape a radio song. Someone can make you tape off a CD. I mean, this is all about controlling what people can do freely with stuff they've purchased or whatever. I mean, who's to say I can't just make you a copy of something or loan you a tape or loan you a disc? I mean, the idea should be to get the music heard, and that's, the main thing.
I mean, as far as, downloading, there's even another end of piracy that, a lot of people don't know. You go down and you play in Mexico, your CD's on cassette. And it's like, hi, I don't remember it coming out on cassette, but you know what? It's down in Mexico, and it's cheese ball style, but you know what? They cannot afford CD players, but I don't mind. I don't mind that. I eat that shit up. We see fucking, oh, wait, Malignancy, oh, wow. You know what? There's never any bogus bullshit from us, but you know what? We seen some kid, Japanese kid, had a Malignancy logo shirt we never made, but that's killer. I love that shit.
Cephalic carnage pillows.
Yes, in Czech Republic. Come on,
they don't see anything.
Pillows. Yo, fucking cephalic book bags. That's all in Europe, man. It's like bootleg city. And to me, I mean, obviously there's a lot of kids out there trying to make money off of other bands, but I don't know. I feel that you should be able to download shit. That's why we have tracks available. If you really dig it, you buy the CD. If you don't dig it, cool. At least you didn't waste $8 or $10 on a CD. Well, that's if you get it from us. If you buy it from someplace else, you have
and the
to pay
bigger
a lot
bands
more.
in the scene shouldn't worry about it anyway because they're making so much fucking money as is. How greedy are you gonna be? Is it music or is it money?
Our rehearsal place got robbed. They stole basically all our equipment and everything, and which sort of delayed us. So when we finally got back on track, sort of the ship had already sailed for death metal. It was like now black metal was going up, and of course that affected us in many ways. I mean, bands like In Flames or Dark Tranquility or such acts, who are very good bands, of course, they made it so far that they could continue growing through the black metal hype, whereas we didn't really make it that far. So we had a couple of rough years there in the mid-90s, definitely. But on the other hand, I don't think that I would have wanted anything anyway different, because it has taught us a lot and we've had to struggle a lot, of course. I mean, I feel it's been worth it, you know what I'm saying?
Actually, I don't think death metal is dead. I think death metal has its years, its up years, its down years, like any music. And I think actually, my real opinion is I think that death metal is actually larger than it's ever been if you're going by number of people listening to it on the planet, because just basically population exposure and bands being able to connect easier through electronic media and things like that, and find more bands. I mean, you can get on the internet and find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bands all over the planet doing cool stuff and putting out their own thing. And
well, the Dutch scene is thriving right now. There's loads of very good upcoming bands and a couple of classic bands that are either reforming or getting active again after some time in a long dormant sleep. There's a couple of labels that are coming up. One of them is Cold Blood Industries. They're getting quite big right now. Mail order is thriving, definitely. I guess the scene, the typical European black metal scene is kind of going downhill a bit, and the death metal scene is picking up quite good. So I see the next year, a year and a half, I think there's going to be a lot of activity in this specific scene. Hopefully that will include metal being more popular in the music scene in general.
Like the early 90s were up years, and that's just because there's a lot of stuff that hadn't ever been heard before, and kind of groundbreaking grindcore, and a lot of it came out then with the earlier releases of the early 90s, and I think they probably stand out as good years because they were the first of a lot of stuff to come. But I think now also because the scene is so large and is quite saturated that maybe it seems like it's dead, but I think there's more than ever. But, you know, I mean, record labels might tell you it's dead because of sales, but I mean, the truth is there's a lot of bands out there and a lot of them just aren't signing. They are doing their own thing, so sure, big labels are probably hurting, but I think in general there are so many more people into metal. But I do see some shows doing better than others in certain cities and places around the world, and I think Europe still has a very strong scene, and most parts of the western United States and southern states, Texas and that kind of thing. The East Coast has its ups and downs, but always has club problems.
It came out real strong, and then it burnt out after a few years. When that happened, the band, like big labels like Roadrunner and things like that, they started, pulling their bands off, putting on more of the mainstream stuff. They wanted to try and boost album sales and everything like that. And the death metal shows, I don't know for what reason it was, they started dwindling in numbers. But as it always is, something comes around full circle again. And what's happened now is the fans of ours that were, let's say 12, 13 years old, 14 years old, when we broke up in '98, they never got a chance. And that was right around the time that death metal really started, falling off. They never got a chance to see us. They never got a chance to see any of the true brutal bands. And what's happened now is that those kids that were that age have grown up now, putting the inspiration that we left on them has now brought about a whole new genre of death metal, and that's why the scene's coming back up. It's all the next generation of the kids that were that young, couldn't come see us. Now all of a sudden it's a few years later, they're old enough now, they put bands together, they're forming bands, and that's the reason of the resurgence.
Yeah, we just came out of that, thankfully. It was like, I would say the end of the 90s probably was when it was just oversaturated. A lot of the great bands were 86 in the scene. They were like, you know, whatever, they broke up, they did their deal, they did their stint, and now it's like, you know, whatever. And then we got that big saturation again. You know, now we're in that saturation stage again of too many bands. And I mean, I don't know. Black metal, I don't really think black metal really did anything to hurt death metal. Death metal was kind of like, it hit its peak, and it was plateauing for a while, and then a lot of interest was lost because there's a lot of the same ass bands that are just copying off of every other band, and there was no original styles coming out of anything. It was all just the same mundane bullshit. And now gore grind is awesome. It's dumbed down. You know, it's like, you know, dumbed down might not be the proper term. I might upset some people in gore grind bands, but you know, it's to the core. It's like fucking just simple, effective, brutal shit, and that's it. You know, you want to play technical, that's cool, that's your deal. You know, but I don't know. I don't really think black metal had anything to do with the downfall of death metal. I think it was actually coming.
Larger cities are just, there's so many people, so spread out, that in the U.S., because geographically just people are spread out, I think some of the scenes have a tough time some years keeping together and keeping scenes alive and keeping people coming to shows, and getting the word out too in a big city can be tough because of just the amount of things out in that city. There's so much, but I think in general there's more people supporting the scene than ever, in the way of sitting home listening to tunes and downloading music or purchasing stuff actually, and then there are actually attending shows and stuff. Although shows are still good, there seems to be more of a quieter kind of scene that doesn't leave the house, I guess. You know, it kind of just is into the thing, and you know, doesn't come out as much. I think it's more in Europe, is more of the party scene where more people come out, you know, to every show, and more kinds of music. In the U.S., I think that the main difference in the death metal worlds between the two ends of the world is over there seems to be a wider spectrum of music listened to by the fans. They're into a lot of thrash, to power, to grind, whereas a lot of people in the U.S. will just go to grind shows, or not go if there's a black metal band, or go if there's only black metal, or whatever, you know. They don't support just for the sake of going out and supporting. Everybody seems a lot more busy and a lot more concerned with financial stuff and the shit of life, and just doing that than paying attention to shows, unfortunately. But they still support quietly, I guess, in their own way.
Yeah, shit only lasts so long anyway in its peak. It never goes away, just like blues didn't go away and jazz didn't go away. And I look at death metal more in that group. We're always going to be able to play 200 to 500 venue clubs, and it'll last forever. I don't think there's ever a downfall. I think there's a lot of people don't show up, you know, but they're still out there. They come out when the bands they really like are playing. Job-wise, if you're a blue-collar worker, you don't have too much of a problem with the long hair, because you're just a grease monkey. You know, you're looked upon like you're supposed to be that anyway.
Yeah,
you know,
the part.
You know, but I feel bad for any of you guys that do fucking business and office work, because that's where they really start fucking staring. You want to cut your hair? You can sell that shit better.
Exactly. I mean, you know, I'm a graphic artist, and I've been out of work for like a year and a half because of it.
I've never seen the so-called dumb metalhead stereotype. I really think actually the scene is full of a lot of people who are into a lot of really cool things. Everyone I talk to seems to have an awesome job, like working at CD pressing plant or some manufacturing place. I mean, maybe not, you know, technical. Well, actually, a few people are into technical jobs, and you know, like artists, a lot of artists, and you know, work computer engineers and that kind of thing. A lot of 3D enthusiasts in the scene. But I mean, I think in general, more so than like rap. I think more rap attracts more mindless type of people who are less up on the evolutionary scale than I think death metal people. I think death metal people also stereotypically have had to put up with a lot of shit because of their perceived stereotypical dumb metalhead, you know, burnout, whatever they've had to deal with in their life. They've kind of strived to be more than that. I think because of being oppressed and called names and you know, called a hairbag or a burnout or dirtbag or whatever the fuck because of whatever they're into, especially when they're just called that because of the music they listen to. I think it forces them to kind of strive for more. And then there's, of course, I'm sure a percentage that just go with it and thrive on it and are just burnouts. But I mean, that's everybody's right to be whatever they want to be. I don't really like stereotypes to begin with, so I don't see that. I see more of intelligent people in our scene.
I'm a bit ashamed to say, but it's actually pretty easy to be a death metal head in Sweden, actually. I mean, Sweden is pretty liberal in that sense. I mean, you can have whatever opinion you want, basically, and you can dress whatever way you want and everything. And I've never really met anybody judging me for the way I look, like in Sweden. Mostly that happens like with people from other countries, but I usually feel that we get a lot of respect, so I wouldn't say that we suffer in Sweden, definitely not. We have other things that really bugs us, of course, but being a death metal head or a metalhead in general is fairly easy, I guess. I get a lot of comments about the beard, though. It's like 22 centimeters, like as long as I'm a dick. So it's something that I get a lot of comments.
I think violence in general kind of is associated with death metal and live shows, and I think somewhat it's misleading. I mean, there's violent lyrics, violent album covers, violent pictures, violent themes. I mean, people are very cool that are into the scene and really out just to drink, party, smoke up, hang, and do what they do and hang out. But I mean, like anything in life, I mean, any kind of situation, you're going to have assholes and jerk-offs who want to fucking start a problem, and there's usually people willing to finish that problem. And I mean, that's anywhere, though. But I think maybe you probably have people with hotter tempers, perhaps. I'm not sure about that, but maybe, you know, in death metal, as opposed to other genres of anything, you know, music, anything that draws people. I think anywhere there's humans, you're going to have problems.
Our scene, a lot of our scene is a lot of togetherness because we've all had to deal with the bullshit of growing up, and we kind of come together in that way, which is good. That's why violence in this scene is gay. So if there's any of you guys watching this that like to be violent, take a chill, because one of these days you're going to get your head cracked, and that's not cool. You know, it's not cool at all. You just got to calm down. It's, you know, some dude falls in the pit, pick his ass up. That's the way it goes. Don't fucking trample him. You know, that's not cool. Some dude wants a headbang, don't clothesline him in the back of the head. That's not cool. You know, there's people that like to hang out and watch shit, and then there's people that like to do their thing. They want to pick up change, kung fu theater, whatever style they want to do, good. Just keep the kicks fucking away from my nuts and everything else. You know, that's it.
After discovering hardcore, like I said, CBGB Sunday afternoons, a lot of what the hardcore/punk crowd designated as bridge and tunnel kids, I was one of them. But I was not a bridge and tunnel kid, I was like grandpa. You know, with like the flannel shirt and the suspenders and the pants rolled up and combat boots. So I really owe them an apology because it was a very special thing that they had there. And it was completely anti-rock, which of course makes it rock music. That the audience became the focus of the attention, not the 3, 4, 5 idiots on stage. And when I say idiots, I don't mean bands I've seen at CBGBs. I mean guys or girls who are on stage and think that they're the focus of attention.
When we started Seance back in 1990, we really wanted to make some kind of aggressive music, and the way we did it was, 200 riffs in every song. Everything was really over the top. I really like that kind of music still. I guess it wasn't really the typical kind of Swedish death metal. It was more, I guess, Americanized metal, death metal, like the Florida kind. But then I got kind of tired of not knowing, when I listened to bands that played a similar style that we did, like not knowing which song it was until I heard maybe 1 or 2 minutes of the song. Like I remember back in the good old days, when you put a cassette tape and you played it and you played push play and you could hear it in whatever 2 seconds, you could hear what song it was. If it was Judas Priest or whatever, you go, oh, it's that song. And if you fast forward to the tape and you go, oh, it's this song. Now, when you put that kind of music on, I went, oh, what is this? And I had to wait for the chorus and going, oh, that's a song. So it was more of a kind of a challenge to make a song very easy, to tell apart from each other. So that's when I started to focus on using few riffs in a song and make a song really stand out. Instead of me using 50 riffs, using 5 really good riffs.
I just think Venom are dead if we don't move on. I think that was the whole point of this reunion, is that so that we could progress it into like a resurrection of Venom. Yes, we can do the reunion, but we're not going to tour that forever. If people don't dig it and don't buy the albums, well then that's the death of any band. If fans don't want a band to continue, then just don't support them and don't buy the records. So it's really them who determine Venom's future. I do think we've only progressed slowly though. I think we've only progressed in a small way. We haven't changed our music or style. You know, we're not wearing different clothes, we haven't cut our hair, we haven't put makeup on. You know, all we've really done is crisped up the production, so it's all of the other elements of Venom are there. It's always been Mantis and I who write all the songs, so we've lost nothing as far as the writing team's concerned. So
we're all fans of horror and gore movies. We don't want to get entangled in a bunch of political bullshit or religious bullshit. We're just out to kill people in our lyrics and sing about things that you could see in any horror movie that you pick up. So a lot of the ideas we get are sort of inspired by movies, but a lot of them just come up from ourselves, like Stabbed in the Throat. We had the title before we had the music.
We don't really take that image too seriously. For example, we use like Bible stories which we sort of, we give our own interpretation of a Bible story in a very extreme way, in such a way that really it's very hard to take it seriously, and it's not really intended as a very serious thing. Though it is surprising to see how both media and fans sometimes pick it up as being very serious, but we never intend it to be very serious. The thing with us is that the music is what counts, really, and the lyrics do have an important role to play, especially in the new album. We have some critical lyrics as well in the social aspect, but we tend to take it with some lighter notes here and there, and I think in general a lot of bands should do that, really, because I think especially in death metal the image thing is really taken so seriously often that bands stop being themselves, and that's really the thing you're expressing really is yourself. And once you put on this mask, whatever mask it be it an anti-Christian mask or a gore horror mask or whatever, if you take it too seriously, your fans will also take it too seriously, and I think that really doesn't give you nor the scene very much credit.
Carnivore, which I really wanted to make at the time, the quintessential rock band by attacking sociological existing values at the time. There's a lot of big words at once, right? Rock music in the past, when the country was very right, rock music has been left. Carnivore was just as a socio-political experiment, right-wing, because not only did we upset the parent and the child, but the embryo.
Of course, you can get as gross as you want to get, but I like to keep my songs real. My songs, my lyrics, you know, they make you think a little bit. There might be a hidden message in there. I don't want to always come out with what the whole song is about by the title. Sometimes you have to read it, and you know, if you need a thesaurus or you need a dictionary, I'm sorry, but you know, I'm trying to promote intelligence here. I mean, these guys, I have to compete with these guys. You know, these guys play some crazy sick ass music, and my vocals have to be up to par with them, and so do my lyrics. You know, regardless if you can make a word out here or there, hey man, it's the vocals, the grunting it's the way that the music has to be. It has to be that way. I can try to picture like a power metal singer trying to fucking sing some death metal. It doesn't work. Nobody wants to hear that, you know, like, it's not the same, it doesn't have the power. There's no, you know, I mean, death metal is death metal. Hi. Most of it is about death, but, you know, a lot of my shit is about crazy stuff that, you know, you don't really think about, you know.
When you have something that you just is very repetitive, it just goes over and over again, yeah, that's the stuff that simple-minded people can cling to, because, you know, it's very easy for them to remember that, you know, that certain line, it just keeps repeating itself. But as far as death metal vocals go, we put a lot of thought into it, a lot of what we're feeling, a lot of, is this just the way I think, or do other people think this way? And it's a whole process. A lot of my lyrics sometimes too are, you know, basically almost like a story. There's a beginning and an end to it.
I got email from Boston General Medical fucking hospital, where fucking there's some young doctors that email me that are into his fucking lyrics because they're so fucking unique. They fucking love. They don't even care as much. It's not as much his performance of the way he sings it. They love just reading. They buy the CD just to read his fucking words. They love his words. They can't believe what he's singing about.
Yeah, because I like to take an aspect of real life and then kind of twist it a little and see like if it can actually happen.
That means a lot to me. I got fucking doctors listening to shit. That is wild, man.
Sick, man. It's great. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, like intrauterine cannibalism, for instance, that's something that only happens in sharks. But I turned it around and made it happen in humans. So there you go.